we want to thank Chris for jumping in and talking to us. I mean, this podcast is going to be a little bit longer than normal, but I mean, they're just some amazing stories, just about him growing up as an Alabama fan, and then obviously the last 22 years of him being the voice of Alabama basketball. It's quite the honor to have him on the podcast and for us to be able to share that time with him. So we really appreciate him jumping in and while he's in Gainesville and he's got a game tomorrow, or I guess when this comes out today. Um, but let's jump into it, guys. I think a lot of people outside of wanting to hear Chris Stewart have probably come here for one reason, or probably two reasons. The first one is let's revisit Saturday. I first want to start with College Game Day. Joey and I were fortunate enough to be able to cover College Game Day. For me, not necessarily for Joey, this was the first time for me to be a credentialed media member. And it was such an awesome and surreal experience. I got to speak with some people that I never thought I'd be able to have like honest conversations with. Got to get on the court and cover College Game Day for Alabama basketball, and the environment and the credit to the fans that came out and the students especially that came out. My takeaway from all of it was um, that little amount of people made that arena seem so loud because how they positioned the students and how they positioned like where it was on TV. If that's not an indication of maybe there should be a change to the student section, then I don't know what is. Because if you just had those two sections or those three sections filled with students, the environment in Coleman would be like absolutely, it would be like it was Saturday night. Additionally, I hope that and like Chris said, it's never seemed to align with Alabama as far as good game, College Game Day. I hope with the new
Mhm.
teams coming in to the SEC that we get more big time Saturday games that allows us to maybe host College Game Day more in the future. What about
And
you
for
guys? What's
goodness
your
sake,
thought?
can we please have Auburn on Saturdays, both home and away? Please stop putting those on Tuesday, Wednesday nights. But no, my takeaways, Christian, were the same as yours. I mean, we talked about it on the court about how, the students being lined up, there on the edge. It didn't matter where you were on the court. It was really loud. And credit to the fans that did show up. They did an excellent job. It really shows how not just how effective Coleman could be, even if the students were just realigned, but also it shows how effective a new arena would be in making it such a completely different environment and just so much more hostile. And no matter, right now, obviously, if you're on one end of the floor, the students can still be loud, but it's obviously a lot louder at the other end. So, but it was an incredible experience. Like you said, it was your first time wearing a credential and walking around. For me, that was something I was used to, but it was the first, time I'd done that in a year. And just being able to do that again, get to walk around and, bump shoulders with people. And, I know, we talked to Greg Byrne for a little bit, obviously talked to people on the beat and some other people there. It was just a really great experience. And it really shows the amount of progress that this program has been. And I'm sure they would have come to an Alabama game, more recent or, earlier than they have, but like you said, the schedule, but regardless, Alabama being on the national stage for the first time, as far as game day is concerned, was just something special and something historic. And it's something that I won't, ever forget. And it's hopefully something that, 5 years from now, it'll be monotonous. The game day will be in Tuscaloosa so much, but yeah, it was a significant day. And day started out great, didn't end so great, but I'm sure we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, as Chris said when he was with us, everything about that day, and I would even say that weekend, Friday and Saturday, everything was great except maybe the most important part, which was getting the result. And even that was great, 35 minutes. I did not have the opportunity to join y'all Saturday, but was with y'all, of course, Friday when we were filming in Coleman Coliseum. And that was a cool experience. The atmosphere just around Tuscaloosa during the day when I did get there in the afternoon and we were downtown and going to different restaurants and different bars. It was a big game atmosphere that we'd never really experienced for a basketball game. People were down there for that purpose, of course, and trying to get there as soon as they could to fill the arena and to start, the electricity as far as what the crowd was going to give for that game early on. So it's been tough. I feel like, because there is a part of last weekend that really needs to be celebrated and enjoyed by Alabama basketball fans. And there's part of that too where I don't want to sit here and just, enjoy the moral victory of that. And some of that just comes with what has been built by Coach Oates and by the athletic department and the players, of just not wanting to settle for, just being there. Like, we want to be there and we want to own the moment as well. And so I personally have had a hard time as far as, being really happy, but also being disappointed about the game, which we'll get into in a little bit. But overall, I have to take a step back, and I hope others take a step back too, of just everything that we've been through over the past decade and a half of Alabama basketball, and sticking with it and loving this program. And no matter who was at the helm or who was playing for us, just trying to get our full support give our full support for them. That patience and that fandom, I feel like in a sense was rewarded with what Saturday was leading up to the game, and then of course parts of the game as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll just say this real fast about that. If you were there for the 13 and 18 season, and if you were there for the loss at Norfolk State, like, that was one of those that Saturday was one of those things that felt for me, being around all of that during that time, it was a surreal moment, especially like we were at Innisfree, and I can't tell you how many people came up to me and they said, "Are you going to the game?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're going to the game." And they said, "Man, I really wish I could go." Right. And that's not like, they're like, "Oh, I wish I had tickets to go," or, "Oh, I really wish I could go, but I can't," or like, "I know that's going to be so fun." Like, that's the type of stuff that, like, you normally only see in Tuscaloosa around college football, during football season. And I know the crowd probably not probably, it wasn't as large. Obviously, there, you don't have an influx of 100 and 150,000 people into Tuscaloosa for um basketball, obviously. But it really did sense, you could, like you said, you could sense some type of electricity. There was kind of like just an energy within Tuscaloosa um that I don't think I've seen or felt in as since I've been, going to games in Tuscaloosa.
Well, not to be not to be ironic, but it was a game day atmosphere. Like, that's what it felt like. It felt like a college game day. It wasn't just, oh, I'm getting to Coleman 30 minutes before tip and then leaving 30 minutes after. Like, it wasn't an event. It was a weekend. And I think that hopefully that gave a lot of people a taste of, and a lot more people will be coming back for that kind of stuff next year, even if they are playing Norfolk State or something like that. But no, I don't want to use the word magical, but it almost was. Like, it was really close to feeling that way. And that's the first time I've ever felt that way about a basketball game in Coleman, as far as just, it wasn't one person that was feeling that. It was the 15,000 people that were inside that day.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, Alabama doesn't come away. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Alabama doesn't come away with the result that we want. I think that just my personal takeaways from the game, Alabama finished the first half about as well as you could have hoped. Came out in the second half at the beginning, really put it to Tennessee. Got the lead up to 7 or 8. I can't remember the number. And it felt like once that happened, Alabama, it felt like the San Diego State game from last year is my best comparison, where Alabama spent so much energy to stay in the game and to get to I think in San Diego State, we had an 8 or 9 point lead, get to that lead. And then all of a sudden, San Diego State is like, we're still going to be playing, but Alabama spent so much energy to get to that point that they didn't have the horses to, keep up the intensity. And ultimately, Alabama loses by 7. I think it was a lot closer than a 7 point game. Tennessee was shot, I think, like 4 consecutive free throws down the stretch to put it within like a 7 point game. But I think you feel the loss of Latrell Wrightsell. Mark Sears has played, what was it, 79 of 80 minutes in the last week. Aaron Estrada is playing 35 plus minutes a game. You see kind of the emergence of Davin Cosby, but he only plays 10 minutes. And then outside of that, you don't really have any more guards. I mean, Ryland's there, but he's not really a guy that you're hoping to run the offense through, even though that did happen sometime at the end of the game. And I think that was in large part due to the fact that Wrightsell and Estrada were just so tired from the physicality of the game. But I do want to speak on quickly just my thoughts. The defense, I think, was improved. That was the lowest percentage that we've allowed in SEC play since the South Carolina game, as far as an offensive or defensive percentage allowed, or offensive percentage allowed. Sorry. And at the end of the day, when you go 9 minutes without scoring a field goal, you're not going to win very many basketball games. And I think that's just the moral of the story for the game on Saturday for me.
Yeah, for me, there was a lot of stuff going on in that game. Just off the top of my head, I can think about, we've been talking about how Bama, particularly in Coleman, has done better with the turnover battle, and they still only gave up 12. But when you give up 12 compared to 6, and Tennessee's able to convert that to 17 points compared to Bama just getting 9 off of turnovers, I mean, that's the difference in the game right there. That's 8 points compared to the 7 that Bama lost by. So, I agree with you, Christian. I thought the defense played a lot better. I mean, they held them to Tennessee. While obviously they won by 7, they really shot pretty poorly from the floor. I mean, they only shot 36% on the day. They were 30% from 3, which was another. They didn't do terrible there. They did it 12 for 40, which was a big difference. But overall, if you're looking out, I was looking here at the stats right here and looking at this at the shooting, and I remember looking at it in the game in the second half from the 14-minute mark all the way to, I think it was 1:14 left in the game. Bama only hit 1 basket that entire stretch. The team played, as opposed to their first half, they played a lot more disjointed in the second half. They were making a lot more mistakes. Shots weren't falling, and unfortunately, or we've seen over the course of this season, they've gotten pretty well at still playing solid defense, even when the offensive end of the floor isn't working out for them. But in this game, you started to see that slacken off just a little bit, and just that little bit of give was what gave Tennessee that push to kind of overtake them at the end, and obviously score those. I think they scored 6 free throws in the final minute or so to really take that potential victory potential defeat from the jaws of victory. But anyways, it was not the game you wanted to see. I do like the way the defense is going, but they're going to need all the help they can get against Florida if they don't respond after that loss. This is a Florida team that I know Chris was talking. He was talking about how he thinks it's a good thing that Florida also lost, so we're kind of on even footing coming into this game. I understand that opinion, but then for me personally, also with the season that Florida's had, it's very, very important that they get a win for their seeding in the SEC tournament. So I really hope once again that I'm wrong, but I also wasn't wrong about the Tennessee game.
Yeah, I want to start my comments about the Tennessee game about Nick Pringle. Nick Pringle has been under a lot of scrutiny this year. Some fair, some unfair, I believe. his play over the past couple of weeks has just continued to improve and has been somebody that I hope we can continue to rely on the rest of the way. We talked about how this team struggles sometimes with physicality. I thought he brought it for all 25 minutes that he was in the game. 9 rebounds, only 1 turnover, 13 points. And what was the part that was so impressive to me about Nick, he's obviously got, a different way to shoot free throws. And when he was going to the line, those were pressure-packed moments where Tennessee had taken the lead in the second half. And he goes to the line and he goes 5 of 6. I'm just incredibly impressed, proud of him as far as what he did in that game and having some big moments. And I obviously really hope for our team, but for him as well, that he can just continue to get better, continue and improve, and really finish this season on a strong note, because he was huge Saturday night. And I think if we had pulled that game out, you'd hear a lot more people talking about him. When I think about how the game was played, and I think we talked a little bit about this on Friday when we were in Coleman, just as far as the emotions of the game and, how do you kind of take a knockout punch, and especially for us as a team, some of the runs that we kind of go on. And I'll go through some of our runs first. We're down 29-39 with about 4 minutes left before halftime. And as Christian said, we could not have ended the first half better. We go on a 12-0 run. It's 41-39. But then, going into halftime, as well as the fans do, as when you come out of halftime to keep the energy going, it was kind of like Tennessee getting saved at the bell when you got them in a corner and it gets to halftime. You think about Nelson's 3 when he hit it to go to 46-40. We were starting to get some momentum, and then they also had some big plays there that I'll get to in just a second. But the key one was definitely when it was 49-48. Estrada hits a 3. Officials stopped the play for a clock issue. It wasn't malicious. It's something that they've got to do. I think we come down and Sears gets dropped past to Nick Pringle, and it's 53-49. Vescovi comes down with 15:27 left and gets a layup. So it's 53-51. And then they don't score another basket. They don't make another field goal for the next 4.5 minutes, except for one Adu free throw during that time. And we score only 5 points during that entire time. It was a Sam Walters layup, and it was Sam Walters hitting 3 free throws, which credit to Sam for going to the line and hitting all 3 free throws. But that's just a different reaction to hitting 3 free throws than to burying a 3-pointer in the corner and keeping the game going and keeping the crowd alive. That was just some of the things as far as, when we're trying to deliver a knockout punch, it just didn't hit as hard as I felt like we really wanted it to. On the flip side for Tennessee, we cut it 30-29. Sears is going to free throw line, shooting 1-and-1. He misses the first one. I think we come down and Nick Pringle picks up his second foul. They hit 2 free throws. It's 32-29. Put Nick in the ball screen action. He gets an offensive foul. So now he's going to the bench with 3 fouls. Come down, Connect gets fouled. He hits the first free throw, misses the second. They get the offensive rebound and hit a 3-pointer, and we call it timeout. So they get a 4-point play. That was a tough moment in the game. But as we just talked about how we finished the first half, you fought back and you had the lead. You fought through that attempted knockout punch. As I mentioned, Nelson hits the 3, it's 46-40, and then the next 3 Tennessee possessions, they hit 3-pointers. I think Sears got caught going underneath a screen, so Ziegler hit a 3. We have a turnover. Estrada gets caught in a screen. Vescovi hits a 3. And then Dalton Connect hit a 3 and that was kind of a gut punch. That, again, I thought we answered very well, and that's when we got our biggest lead, 58-51, which I think should have been bigger during that time, which we just talked about. But then the last one, Nelson picks up his 5th foul. in the ball screen action on offense. I'm not going to say it was a good call, but I'm also not going to say it was a bad call. It was a tough call, obviously, for us in that situation. They come down, miss a shot, get an offensive rebound. Meshack hits the three. They go up 63-62. He runs across the court as Sears is trying to pass it up to Estrada. Makes a great play to keep his feet in bounds, gets it to Ziegler. Ziegler gets it to Adu. He scores for an and one opportunity. It's 65-62, and you could kind of just feel, the air being sucked out of the gym at that point. And you could kind of look at some of our guys too at that point, where we've talked about they haven't been too high, they haven't been too low. You could just kind of see it on some of their faces that they were gassed and maybe some questioning as far as, can we get back into this game? But they continued to fight. They continued to play. And you got to be very proud of that effort. But when I go back and think about those three stretches for Tennessee, those were emotional, physical gut punches that, unfortunately, at the end of the day, we just weren't able to overcome. The defense, as you mentioned, I think the defense was improved. But one of the things that I feel like I've noticed about our defense, both in the Tennessee game and the Kentucky game, and Charles Bediako gets a lot of talk about, we don't have a rim protector or things like that. I think it's more of just we don't have the length, of course, that we had last year. When we've got a guy who's off ball on the backside and he's got his foot in the paint trying to protect the paint, but he's got a shooter on the other side, and, ball side makes a drive into the paint, he collapses down, they kick out. We just don't necessarily have the quickness or the length to alter shots like we did last year. And I think that was kind of evident too on the play where we try to double connect in the corner. They make three quick passes, either to Josiah Jordan-James or Meshack again. And he gets off a three-pointer where our guys just, a step or two slow in getting back to him. Where if we have the length, it's probably a little bit faster recovery. Especially, looking back at this year, that it's just something that, you can't coach length. But I do think the team is continuing to improve. I think they grew up a little bit as well. And so there are some positives to take away from the game. But one thing that I do think we need to see from guys like Rylan Griffin and Stevenson and Sam Walters is not trying to hit two or three 3-pointers with just one shot. We've gotten to rushing our shots a little bit, trying to do too much. Coach Oates always talks about just lose yourself in the game. And I think we need some of our guys to just get back and lose themselves in the game, and the shots will come to them. That's what Rylan did in the second half against Ole Miss. That's when Stevenson was hitting shots that he did, it's much smoother than what it is now. And I think about when Sam Walters was hitting his threes against Florida, that he just lost himself in the game. So disappointing. Tennessee's a very good team. It was a great atmosphere. It was a great game. Hopefully there's an opportunity, to pull it out, whether it's an outright SEC championship or meeting them in the SEC tournament. But still feel encouraged about this team as we get into March, and obviously just want to get healthy these next two games as we get into the SEC tournament as well.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of talk is about Reitzel being out. And I think he's one of those guys that is like that veteran, experienced guy that between him, Mark Sears, and Rylan Griffin, they've had real chances this season to deliver those type of knockout three-pointers throughout the season. And obviously with Sears playing majority of the minutes, that it wasn't going to fall on him. I think Rylan had a tough game. And you really needed a guy like a Reitzel to be there and calm the guys down and allow them and just step up and hit a shot when it needed to be hit. There were a lot of opportunities. I know Oates has talked about shot selection. A lot of those shots, while they weren't great, were wide open. Rylan, down the stretch had 3-pointers that were clean looks that just hit the front rim and bounced out. And it's just playing within the system, playing within the offense. And I think at times, Alabama got away from that on Saturday, but you know, you got to move forward. You got Florida up next, which since this is coming out on Tuesday, is tonight. And they're no pushover team. Florida's a very, very good team. I know they dropped out of the top 25 this week, but they took Alabama to overtime in Coleman last time that we played. And if Reitzel's not playing, which at the time of recording, we don't know whether or not he is or is not playing. I think it's going to be tough for Alabama. It's senior night for Florida. It's prime time. They're going to look to get revenge, not only for the game a couple weeks ago, but additionally for the game that they lost over the weekend to South Carolina, and that was a tough game as well. So there's no cupcakes for Alabama the rest of the way. Heck, even Arkansas took Kentucky to the wire on Saturday, who we played on this weekend. So this is the time. This is winning time for Alabama. This is championship time for Alabama. How you respond to the game on Saturday determines whether or not you have the mental fortitude to be able to get to the goals and get to the aspirations that you want, which is SEC championship, SEC tournament championship, and hopefully a deep run in the NCAA. So really looking forward to seeing how this team kind of, like you said, grows up and responds to adversity, because that's what Alabama has right now. It's adversity.
And for this team and this program, if you go all the way back to 2022, when we lost to Vanderbilt in the SEC tournament, that's 38 SEC games where in 37 of them, you controlled your own destiny to either win the SEC regular season or win the SEC tournament. The one game out of that 38 that you didn't was the Texas A&M game last year, because you'd already won the SEC regular season. So that one just kind of stuck out to me of the impressive run that we've been as far as just controlling the SEC over the past basically 2 years. But just the mindset too, as well as you're playing still for the opportunity to win the SEC, whether it's getting a share or winning it outright if things really go your way. But you don't control your own destiny anymore. And you're coming off a very tough game with a lot of emotion, as we talked about throughout the weekend. And like you said, Florida's coming off a game where they had, I think, an 11-point lead at South Carolina, and they end up, losing by 6. At some point in this game, tomorrow or tonight, even if Florida gets off to a good start, there's going to be an opportunity to get back in this game, because that's just what Florida has done all year. When Missouri came into town to Florida just last week, they had an 11-point lead against them, and that game was tied in the second half. They beat LSU at home 82-80. The Vanderbilt, they ended up winning by 13, but they were up as much as 22 in that game. They have struggled to hold on to leads, but also when they've been down, like when they were at Kentucky and when they were, I believe they were on the road at Georgia, they have also fought back in a lot of games as well. Emotions, I think, are going to play a lot more in this game than what we've seen all year. Obviously, this is the time of year when you get to your senior night festivities. So how focused are some of their guys on the game? How focused are we coming into the game, knowing with what we dealt with last week? And I think for Florida too, can emotions make you play out of control, knowing that you probably gave a game away to us in Tuscaloosa, and do you try to make up for that game by taking shots or playing too fast when you shouldn't be? But I think it's going to be, for the casual basketball fan, it should be another fun, exciting game. I thought the first game was very fun and exciting. It's both teams that play really, really fast. It's both teams that like to score the basketball and don't really play a whole lot of defense. So it should be a quality game and a fun night. And hopefully it's a game that we can go ahead and just wrap up at minimum the 2 seed in the SEC tournament, which is something to be proud about as well for this program that hasn't, unless we've won the SEC, we haven't had a double bye since 2013. So even though it's not the ultimate championship, there's still something to be proud of and to feel accomplished as far as getting a double bye, because you want that if you're gonna have an opportunity to win the SEC tournament. So we're gonna get challenged on all levels of the floor, at all positions. They've got a very good team, as we've talked about. I think they're a sneaky team, not only for the SEC tournament, but the NCAA tournament, and I'm very excited to watch the game and see how we respond tonight.
Joe, you have any thoughts on the Florida game?
Sorry, my brain was about 12,000 miles away. No, this is this is a Florida team that Charles kind of took the point that I was going to make about how this is a Florida team that is very capable of giving up leads, but they're just equally as capable of fighting back and staying in whatever situation they're in. We saw that in multiple ways in the first matchup in Coleman, going to overtime. I think a lot of people have forgotten. A lot of Alabama fans kind of dismissed Florida after the Florida game. But people forget that they're still, the primary focus of people this season has been obviously on Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, and Auburn. Those have been the 4 teams, but Florida has been quietly just circling back and forth just outside those 4 teams. This is a very dangerous team. Look at them on KenPom. They're 15th in the country in offense on KenPom. They have a really, really stout offense. And I know this isn't really saying much, but they're also ranked higher than Alabama in defense. They're 88th. So combine all that with the emotions you were mentioning, Charles, in this game being played, at Florida. This is a game that I've been saying the past few weeks is if Bama was going to lose one, this would be the game they'd lose. So, I'm not going to go through and point out specific players because we kind of already went through that on a previous podcast, but they have a lot of weapons. They have a lot of talent. There's a reason Florida is such a storied program. They've got a lot going for them. And while the hype around them hasn't been as high this year as it has in years past, this is still a very dangerous basketball team. And it's going to be a lot of fun, though. It'd be huge if Bama could get a win and then finish the season with a win against Arkansas to close out and get some momentum heading into March, because I think we're starting to get to the point where Alabama needs to find some sort of rhythm and some sort of momentum heading into the SEC tournament, because if they drop this one and they beat Arkansas, yes, that'd be nice to have the Arkansas game, but they wouldn't have had any consistent wins heading into the tournament to light a fire under their butts. So hopefully they'll be able to do that tonight, not tomorrow night, but tonight in Gainesville. And then hopefully we'll be, grinning heading into Saturday and then heading into tournament week, which I think also one of the reasons my head was 12,000 miles away is because it kind of finally just hit me about 5 minutes ago that the SEC tournament's next week. I've known it's been on the calendar. I've known it's next week, but it really finally hit me. It's freaking March, y'all. So let's get excited.
Yeah, it is. And it's kind of crazy to think about that. I feel like the basketball season's kind of flown by.
Yeah.
And I guess that comes with with the territory of doing this, where it feels like we're doing something every other night or so. But I going into, so we talked about Florida. Let's just briefly talk about Arkansas for those of you guys listening. We're not really going to touch on Arkansas as a preview. Well, just because this podcast is probably going to end up being an hour and a half long. And 2, I think that it's important to talk about the Arkansas game after the outcome of the games, I guess tonight. It's almost tonight for me because it's 11:40 p.m. But after the outcome of the game, win or lose for Alabama, and then obviously the South Carolina Tennessee game. So we're going to be probably deep diving in that following the Florida game in the post game space, just talking about Arkansas. And additionally, want to just mention for Arkansas that it is a Crimson Out. It is senior night. I don't know what all seniors are going to be honored. I would assume that Aaron Estrada is going to be honored as he runs out of eligibility after this year. But Alabama has a lot of guys that have one more year of eligibility left. So I'm not entirely sure as far as seniors are concerned, what that looks like as far as the guys being honored. But it is a Crimson Out, so wear crimson. I would assume that Alabama is going to wear crimson jerseys. and I think that's the first day of spring break. So I do know for the student section that they did reduce the amount of tickets that the students have. And so there are tickets available, even though it was previously announced as a sellout. There are tickets available up in the like student section area available for purchase. So buy those up, support the guys on the last home game of the season. And one thing I want to mention for people listening is regardless of the result tonight, and regardless of the result on Saturday, we always level set at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of the conference play, and in SEC play, where sorry, my wife just came in and just scared the crap out of me. I literally just jumped. um, we always try to level set the season and kind of confidence and predictions. And I do remember this, that in December when we talked about this on the space, and it might have been in a podcast too. The prediction that I at least personally had, and I think Charles, you had a similar one.
Yep.
And Joey, you as well, was Alabama was going to finish 12-6 or 13-5 in the SEC, get to 20 or 21 wins before the SEC tournament. And that would likely have made Alabama a 5 or 6 seed in the SEC or NCAA tournament. At this point in time of recording at 11:43 p.m. With 2 games left in the regular season, Alabama is sitting at what, 11-3.
12-4 right now, 20-9 overall.
12-4 in the SEC, 20-9 overall. So Alabama's already hit the 20-win threshold. And we all said at the beginning of SEC play that 13-5 would be a good season for Alabama. Now, this isn't just me coping that we might lose. And if we do lose, then so be it. But I know where Alabama was as far as opportunity, but I think 13-5 is exceeding expectations relative to what we expected going into the conference play. And so I think it's been a great season for Alabama. And I feel like they've exceeded anything that I could have thought would be possible.
I mean, just think about how we felt about this team after the non-conference play. You know, just that which is around the time we made these predictions, you know, for what we thought would be good. You know, this is obviously those losses were quality losses, but you know, they still were L's in the L column regardless. So you didn't feel good about that anyways. But what this team has been able to do to turn that around into being still with 2 games left, a potential contender as far as, you know, winning the SEC regular season title. It's amazing what this team has been able to do. Like we've seen the very bottom lows and we've seen the really high highs, and hopefully we're gonna, you know, see some heights keep going in the next couple of weeks here. But it goes back to what you've said, Christian, a couple of times. This is probably NATO's best coaching job because he's had to do so much with, I won't say so little because he does have a lot of great athletes and talent on the roster this year, but he's had to do so much despite in spite of all the turnover that they've had. And so it's going to be interesting to see how these final 2 games play out, but I am in complete agreement. They could go 1-1 here and I would still not be disappointed. 13-5 is still, you know, your top 4 seed in the tournament, in the SEC tournament. Probably you're still, like Chris Stewart was saying earlier in the podcast, you're still a 3 seed or a 4 seed heading into the NCAA tournament. And boy, does that feel nice to not have to be on bubble watch anymore.
Yeah, when you think about last March, and not just, you know, Alabama being a 1 seed that fell in the Sweet 16, but no 1 seed made it past the Sweet 16. Only 1 2 seed, which I believe was Texas, made it into the Elite 8. It's all about just playing your best basketball as you get into March. I think the defense is improving. I'd like to see more improvement tonight and against Arkansas. However long we're in the SEC tournament, I'd like to continue to see improvement there as well. I think the offense is still clicking as well. And we know who wins in March. Old guards win in March. And we've got some of the best guards and the oldest guards in the country. So this team has everything in front of them. While it may not be something as far as a regular season SEC championship, to do things that Alabama basketball hasn't been done before, it's all about just giving yourself an opportunity once you get into March. And they've done that by getting themselves in what I think will be a pretty good seed, even if it's a 5 or 6 seed. Like, you're there, let the upsets happen, take care of your own business, go out and play with energy and effort, continue to prove on the defense, keep shooting the lights out of the ball, and just let the ball bounce, hopefully in our direction. We've had a lot of unfortunate bounces this year, literally in games, and of course with some of the injury battles that we've had to deal with, not just Reitzel, but Wiggy and some of the other guys that were banged up even before the season started. We're due for some things to go our way, and we're positioned well, should those things start going our way too. So, absolutely nothing to be disappointed as far as the season. Just very excited, that we are now in March of what this team has in front of them and what they can do and the noise they can make, hopefully in the big dance.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I've it's so interesting because this Alabama team personally is a team that I don't think will make a run. This is just my hot take personal opinion, which means that this team is going to be the team that makes the run. That's just how it goes. Also, I'm surprised you guys haven't mentioned that I'm not banned from Coleman Coliseum, because I went back and did the math, and apparently the last 4 games I've been in Coleman, Alabama shot 25% from 3. And the only reason that it's that high is because I was there for the Texas A&M game this year. So it's maybe we can get a petition going to sign me up to not come back to Coleman, or better yet, if you guys have a team that you want to lose, pay for my ticket. I'll go to the game, and the home team will lose because they won't be able to shoot well. I think that would work well as well. So, other than that, I think we're good. It's
I do have one more thing that I just wanted to, because this is Crimson crossover. Let's give congratulations to the women's team getting a double bye for the SEC women's tournament. First time, I believe, since the 97-98. It's been a slow process, but man, Christy Curry has taken this program to the next level, which is still not the highest level that you want to be competing at if you're going to be competing in sports. But she's done a phenomenal job. Credit to the ladies as far as what they've done this year. Want to wish them a ton of success as they get into the SEC tournament, and of course the women's NCAA tournament in the future. But I did want to make sure that we recognized them, and finally getting that monkey, I guess, off their back as far as getting back into the double bye and playing somebody when they're rested and somebody coming off playing a game or two beforehand.
Also, additionally, shout out to the women's adapted athletics basketball team, who was the #1 national seed, I think, for them. And that we talk about football as being an institution and a powerhouse. I'm pretty sure the women's adapted athletics basketball team has won like 6 or 7 national titles in the last like 8 or 9 years. So shout out to them as well. I'm not sure. I tried to do research this afternoon on the men's team, and I haven't gotten anything. I would assume that they're doing well. I think they're like 20-6 or something, but they don't get the national seeds until next week. So a good time to be a fan of some hardcore or hard court sports. So Sorry. It's
Yeah,
I'm deluded.
if you can't tell, listeners, we're getting pretty tired over here.
Yeah,
so.
it's like almost midnight. So
Yeah.
I think we're good to call it a wrap. And um get some sleep because God, I need it. But anyway, this has been awesome experience talking with Chris, talking with you guys, just reminiscing on some great Alabama basketball memories, and um, hopefully we can make a few more this in March this year. And we're still talking hopefully in April about Alabama basketball. But um, other than that, I think we're good to sign off. I don't know what I said this time, but
That was the it's the flash.
yeah, I don't know what's going on. My teams for my work is for whatever. This is going off the rails. I'm sorry. This is going off the rails.
We should just quit while we're ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, shop J&J apparel. We're all wearing it. I think we said it. Go pick up Chris's merchandise. He has a shirt that says "Let's get out of here" with like headphones. It's really cool. Go pick that up. Just go support him, support J&J's local business. We have a few ideas coming out of over the summer and heading into next season as well. So pick that up. Obviously go support Field of 68. That's our presenting sponsor. And they do great work. They have a bracketology that they just released tonight, and they do that every Monday and Friday, I believe. So go check that out as well. Other than that, you guys have a great night. Or great day. Sorry, this is coming out in the morning, and and we'll talk again on Spaces following the game. Roll Tide.
Roll
Roll
Tide.
Tide.